In 1968, a scientist named John Calhoun built a paradise for mice. Unlimited food, unlimited water, no predators, no disease, enough space for 4,000. Within 2 years, the population peaked at 2,200, and then something went wrong. The mice stopped fighting. They stopped mating. They stopped raising their young. A new class of mouse emerged, creatures that did nothing but eat, groom, and stare into space. Calhoun called them the beautiful ones. And what happened next in that cage has haunted scientists ever since. John Bumpass Calhoun was an ethologist at the National Institute of Mental Health for 32 years. He was obsessed with one question: what happens to behavior when space runs out? In 1962, he published a landmark paper in Scientific American called Population Density and Social Pathology, in which he coined the term behavioral sink, the self-reinforcing collapse of social norms triggered by overcrowding. His most famous experiment was Universe 25, a glass enclosure measuring 101 inches square, designed to house 4,000 mice. It had everything a mouse could want: food dispensers that never ran empty, water bottles that never stopped flowing, nesting material, climbing structures. No mouse would ever go hungry, thirsty, or cold. In July 1968, Calhoun introduced 4 pairs of breeding mice. They multiplied rapidly. By day 315, the population had reached 620. By day 600, it peaked at 2,200. But the population never reached the theoretical capacity of 4,000. Something was preventing it. As density increased, social behavior began to fracture. Males abandoned their territories. Females became aggressive, attacking their own young. Infant mortality soared. In the most crowded sections, 96% of pups died before weaning. Social grooming, which normally occupies a significant portion of a mouse's day, was replaced by pathological self-grooming. Mice would spend hours washing themselves compulsively, ignoring everything around them. And then came the beautiful ones. They were males who had never fought, never mated, never established a territory. They did only 3 things: eat, sleep, and groom. They were physically perfect, their coats were flawless, their bodies unmarked by the violence that had consumed the other males. But they were, in Calhoun's words, spiritually dead. They had withdrawn from life entirely. The population entered an irreversible decline. No amount of space or food could reverse it. The last surviving birth occurred on day 600. The experiment ended around day 1588, with the population heading toward extinction. Calhoun had created a paradise and watched it destroy itself. Calhoun's experiments weren't just about mice. He believed they were about us. In 1962, he argued that the behavioral sink was already visible in human cities, in overcrowded housing projects, in the breakdown of community, in the rising rates of mental illness in dense urban environments. His ideas influenced urban planning, architecture, and public health policy. Edward Hall, the anthropologist who studied proxemics, how humans use space, cited Calhoun's work directly. The design of modern housing, offices, and public spaces all carry echoes of Calhoun's warnings about density and social behavior. But here's where it gets complicated. In 2025, the historian Stephen Day published a reassessment in the London Review of Books, arguing that Calhoun's conclusions were overstated. The mice weren't just overcrowded, they were confined. They couldn't leave. They couldn't disperse. In the wild, mice solved density by moving away. Universe 25 removed that option entirely. This is a crucial distinction. Calhoun's behavioral sink wasn't caused by too many mice. It was caused by too many mice in too small a space with no escape. The mice didn't collapse because they were overcrowded. They collapsed because they were trapped. And this, Day argues, is where the analogy to human cities breaks down. Humans can leave. Humans can move, adapt, form new communities. The behavioral sink isn't inevitable. It's a product of specific conditions: confinement, helplessness, the loss of agency. Yet something about Calhoun's vision persists. The beautiful ones, the withdrawn, groomed, passive males, still feel like a mirror. In a world of screens, delivery apps, and algorithmic comfort, how many of us have become beautiful ones? Not starving, not fighting, not dying, just opting out. So here's what we're left with. Calhoun created a paradise and watched it collapse. Not because the mice were weak, or stupid, or flawed, but because paradise without purpose is a trap. The behavioral sink wasn't about population density. It was about the loss of meaning. When every need is met, when every desire is satisfied, when there's nothing left to fight for or strive toward, what happens to a social creature? The mice answered, they withdraw. They groom. They stare. They become beautiful and empty. The philosopher Aristotle called this akrasia, the state of knowing what's good but failing to pursue it. The beautiful ones knew, on some level, that they were meant to fight, to mate, to build. But the environment had removed every reason to do so. And without reason, behavior collapses. Calhoun himself believed the answer was behavioral space, not just physical space, but meaningful social roles, challenges, and purposes. He argued that humans needed not just room to move, but room to matter. Without that, the beautiful ones are inevitable. The real question isn't what happened to the mice. It's what's happening to us. We have more comfort, more food, more entertainment than any generation in history. And yet rates of anxiety, depression, and social isolation are climbing. Perhaps the lesson of Universe 25 isn't about overcrowding. It's about what happens when comfort replaces meaning.